There you go. Self-described Democrat socialist and the winner of New York City's Democrat primary this week, Zohran Mamdani, speaking against capitalism on his media tour. The Big Apple's mayoral race looking like a four-way split right now. Former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo told me earlier in the week he will run in November, and he's keeping it open. And he said officially, yes, he's going to run as an independent. I reported that on Monday after Cuomo told me himself. Incumbent Mayor Eric Adams officially announced his reelection yesterday, also as an independent. But then there is a Republican in the field, Guardian Angels founder Curtis Sliwa, and he joins me right now. New York City mayoral candidate and the Guardian Angel founder, Curtis Sliwa. Curtis, thanks so much for being here. Your thoughts on the race after Mamdani won? How are you going to get the electorate out to vote for you?
Well, number one, you just point to Chicago. Everybody are throwing these words out: socialist, communist, supporter of terrorism. It didn't dent him in the Democratic primary. You have to be out in the streets to understand this is a generational battle. This is like it was in the 60s when I grew up. If your parents told you don't do this, you did that. Counterculture. But the way you defeat this is you go into this campaign, you go into the neighborhoods, and you explain to people your property values in the house that you own will plummet. You won't have a city in which you will have a potential job because big businesses are going to flee. They already are doing that, Maria. In fact, under Eric Adams, the greatest transfer of wealth in the history of New York City has already been taking place down south of the Mason-Dixon line, especially to Florida and Texas. All you got to do is walk in the streets, homeless, emotionally disturbed, empty storefronts, garbage. And this was under Adams, and people know that. But they want a fresh face. That's what the Democrats were saying when they were leaving the polling.
Yeah.
And they want a fresh face in Curtis Sliwa, who's a trusted friend of theirs for 47 years, protecting them in the subways and streets, and he's always out there in the neighborhoods. That's me, the consummate true New Yorker who understands the importance of business, staying here, developing, and us getting back to where we were under Rudy Giuliani and Michael Bloomberg.
Look, Curtis, the Wall Street Journal is writing that New York City developers are gripped by hysteria right now after Mamdani's sudden rise over the candidate's rent freeze policies. And we also have people talking about getting out of New York because of the crime that's going to rise. Mamdani said he wants to defund the police. Curtis, nobody knows the security and lack of security or crime situation in New York better than you. What would happen to New York City if Mamdani comes in and starts defunding the police?
You would have to bring Kurt Russell out of retirement to do the third episode of Escape from New York, because we're already 7,000 police officers down. When I'm mayor, first thing I do, hire 7,000 additional police officers. You need to be up to 40,000 cops who are actually out in the streets and subways protecting people. And you got to take the handcuffs off the cops, which is what they're unfortunately fitted with now, because they can be personally sued. Now, that's something that Eric Adams and Cuomo were for, and they're part of the problem here. I'm the only one who is out there talking on behalf of the police, and more importantly, people who are looking to protect their neighborhoods. But under Mamdani, you will see an incredible flight. And you will see criminals who will be empowered even more than they are now, with no cash bail and being released back into the streets. I'm going to change all of that. None of these other candidates can, because they already had the chance, Maria. Cuomo had the chance. Adams had the chance. Look at the city now. The criminals run amok. You can't find one neighborhood, one person in which they're going to say, oh, we feel so much safer now. So Eric Adams can't suddenly say he's the law and order mayor. He had 3.5 years to do the job, and unfortunately, things have gotten so much worse.
Well, I mean, Curtis, you founded the Guardian Angels in 1979, a nonprofit organization training volunteers to keep our streets and subways safe. So getting your take on this is really important. Do you think crime improved after President Trump closed the border?
Well, it certainly did in terms of the bad migrants, what he called originally the bad hombres. I saw the gangbangers, I saw the drug dealers, I saw the narco terrorists and the sex traffickers suddenly seep into the cracks. They were no longer as visible. They didn't have that machismo and bravado. That was so important what Donald Trump did. Unfortunately, we haven't followed up in that. I would say if you want to make your case against Mamdani, and this is clear, boil it down. Say Chicago, right, which was always considered the second or third city of importance in America. Look at what's happened with socialist Mayor Johnson. The entire implosion of that city. Mamdani has the same platform. He has the same issues. So if you want to say, what about freezing the rent? What about free bus fare? What about handcuffing the police officers? Just take a camera into Chicago and say, you see what you got with a socialist Mayor Johnson? That's what you're going to get with a socialist Mayor Mamdani. That's what I'm going to do, because I have guardian angels in Chicago. I have them all over America. I have them all over the world. Yeah. And you've got to get millennials. You've got to get hipsters. You've got to get generational Z. It's not just baby boomers. We're not the majority any longer. They are. They are the majority of the voters. And every one of these other candidates are making fun of them, and they're pushing them away. Donald Trump was brilliant, our president, when he went for the male millennials. And in this campaign against Harris, I believe ultimately that gave him such a tremendous surge of votes that he won those 7 battleground states, and he won the popular vote because the male millennials, the male Generation Zers, abandoned ship of the Democratic Party. Well, look, that's the route.
By the way, President Trump brought in such an incredibly diverse populace to his campaign. It wasn't just Republicans. It wasn't just men. It was Democrats. It was independents. Everybody was resonating. What he was saying was resonating with all these groups, very diverse. But you think crime returns to New York to the tune of what we saw in the 1970s, 1980s if Mamdani gets in. Is that right?
Oh, there's no doubt. And remember, it's Mamdani who said the best mayor that we've ever had was Bill de Blasio. That speaks for itself. He led the implosion. Maria, I am the only person, and you know this, who's the tried and true New Yorker. As a Republican, I can go into neighborhoods where the only Republican they've ever seen is Abraham Lincoln on a $5 bill. Get respect and get votes. No other candidate can do that. And I've proven that time and time again.
Well, I'm wondering if Cuomo runs as an independent, Eric Adams runs as an independent. They take each other's votes. They take votes away from you, and then Mamdani wins. So, I mean, having 2 independents and then you, I don't know how, you split that up. I think you give it to Mamdani with the 3 of you here. So, Curtis, I'll be watching your work. We want you to come back because we want you to tell us more about your platform in the coming weeks. Will you do that?
Just remember, I'm the only Republican. Independents, why are they independents? Because their own parties have rejected them. People are rallying around the candidacy of Curtis Sliwa. Go to Sliwa for NYC.com. You'll see Sliwa for NYC.com and elect a real Republican.
Thank you, Curtis. We'll be watching your work.